A very busy day in the WMBF newsroom as we honor and remember Sergeant Terrence Carraway. We're bringing you team coverage from Florence, where thousands gathered to honor the fallen officer. Plus, a jury selected in the trial against Tammy Moorer, the new developments from the courtroom as her kidnapping trial is set to begin. Also at 6, bond denied for the man accused of shooting and killing a man during a bar fight at Riptides. We're also hearing from a close friend of the victim who says she is still in shock after this senseless act of violence.
And Michael growing to a powerful hurricane in the Gulf. The latest impact forecast for our area, less than a minute away.
The WMBF News at 6 starts right now.
Live, local, late breaking. This is WMBF News at 6.
Good evening to you. Thanks for joining us for WMBF News at 6 o'clock on a very busy day in our newsroom. I'm Eric Weisfeld, my co-anchor Meredith Heline. Anchoring from the field tonight, she's been at Sergeant Terrence Carraway's funeral all day. We're going to have team coverage from Florence in just about 2 minutes. First, though, tonight, Hurricane Michael in the Gulf threatening the Florida Panhandle and set to bring tropical storm impacts as it passes through the already hurting Carolinas. As people continue to recover after Florence, Chief Meteorologist Jamie Arnold breaking down the impacts we'll feel in the Grand Strand and the PD. We should point out those impacts, Jamie, though, nothing like Florence.
Yeah, a huge difference across the Carolinas between Florence and Michael. That is the #1 headline here. This is not Florence. Michael is going to be quick hitting, in and out in a hurry. Now, with that said, we are still likely going to get a period of some locally heavy rainfall, likely 2 to 4 inches with locally some higher amounts. But again, that gets in and out in a 12-hour period, perhaps even less than that. Could have a small impact on river levels, but we're not expecting widespread major flooding following Michael. Now, right now, Michael brushing by the extreme western tip of Cuba as a hurricane. Winds currently at 80 miles per hour, movement off to the north at 9 miles per hour, and out ahead of it here across the Gulf of Mexico. Very warm water temperatures allowing this likely now to reach Category 3 intensity as it approaches the Florida Panhandle as we head into the day Wednesday, and then really races its way to the northeast and likely through the Carolinas as a tropical storm during the day Thursday and out of here by Friday. So it is in and out in a hurry. Tomorrow, just a couple of pop-up showers. Rain likely increases at times, along with some gusty winds by late in the day Wednesday. Thursday is the main day of action, though, with periods of heavy rain, likely some wind gusts to tropical storm force, and the threat for some isolated tornadoes. But it's only for Thursday. Notice by Friday, it gets out of here. It starts to feel like fall. I've got a much closer look at all those impacts coming up in my full forecast.
Badge 272, Florence County Central Dispatch.
Last Wednesday, many of you got to know my friend, Terrence Carraway. Somebody called him a hero for what he did. He was, but more important, he was a hero long before last Wednesday.
Sergeant Terrence Carraway, Badge 272, Florence County Central Dispatch.
More than just a father or a father figure, more than just a mentor or someone you look up to, more than just a police officer, he was a legend.
Cruiser 1 Central Dispatch, we're receiving no response from Cruiser 2, Badge 272.
Rest in peace, 272, Sergeant Terrence Carraway. To your brothers and sisters in blue, have it from here. We love you, Sergeant Terrence Carraway.
An officer, a coach, a father, a husband, and a friend. A sad day for so many as Sergeant Terrence Carraway, who was shot and killed in last week's ambush on law enforcement in Florence County, was laid to rest. Our coverage continues on WMBF News at 6 now from Florence. That's where we find my co-anchor Meredith Heline tonight after a day of honoring and remembering the life of a hero. Meredith?
Good evening, Eric, and that's exactly what kind of day it was. This parking lot here at the Florence Center was packed today as thousands of people went into the Florence Center to honor Sergeant Terrence Carraway. His visitation, his public viewing started at 9 o'clock this morning. It was followed at noon with a funeral service, and we've been here all day. We had a live show at 11 o'clock today, and even more of you watched from home watching that show as people who didn't even know him, friends, family, co-workers, law enforcement from across the state, across the country came here to honor their fallen comrade. Now we have team coverage tonight from across the area. We start with Nia Watson. She's live at the Florence Memorial Gardens. That's where Sergeant Carraway was laid to rest just a short time ago. Aaron Edwards live at the Florence Center with testimony on how Terrence Carraway changed kids' lives for the better through his service as a coach and mentor. And we have Patrick Lloyd, who was also at the funeral today, with a powerful message that his friends had to say as to who he was as a person. And Patrick Lloyd is kicking off our team coverage tonight at 6.
We all know what happened to Terrence Carraway, but today was not a day to focus on that. Today was a day to focus on who Terrence Carraway was as a person. We're going to show you this video right here. You can see that it was nearly a packed house here at the Florence Center. Almost every square inch of the floor was filled with people, and most of the seats in the stands were filled as well. Truly just a testament to the fact that Sergeant Carraway had an impact on so many lives here in the PD. People spoke saying he was a friend, a mentor, a coach, and one member of the military who knew Carraway says Carraway died doing what he loved.
This is what God put him to do, to serve his God, his country, his community. That's what you do when you do something for 30 plus years. It's much more than just a job. It's a commitment to who you are to the people.
And we heard just how much Carraway loved his job as a police officer, and that's something that was really incredible to see here was the support from surrounding police communities. So many officers and sheriff's deputies from all across, not just the PD, but also the state, came to pay their respects to the late Sergeant Terrence Carraway. Live in Florence, Patrick Lloyd, WMBF News.
And friends, family, fellow officers followed the Carraway motorcade from the Florence Center here to the Florence Memorial Gardens. That's where he was buried today, surrounded by family and friends, and that's where Nia Watson is live now. Good evening, Nia.
Good evening, Meredith. It is here at the Florence Memorial Gardens where Sergeant Terrence Carraway will forever rest in peace, but people who knew him say he will forever leave a mark on their lives and on the community he gave his life to protect. Now, Sergeant Carraway is remembered in many ways. Those who knew him well described him as a selfless, gentle giant who always put others before himself. One lady remembers when he took her sons under his wing as a mentor. Another person spoke on the good times they had while serving in the Air Force together overseas.
The Spain trip, we had a good time with the Spain trip. Did some sightseeing, got a chance to hang out, amongst the Spanish people and on our downtime, they had a little rec room. We go in there and play pool, talk some junk, and things like that.
But what people remember the most is his community involvement. Family members I spoke with say he was an active member in the church. Others say he was a mentor to many boys and young men in the area. And while he is no longer here, those who came to know him say his passion for the community will always be.
Always tried to help people, and he will definitely be missed.
Carraway was a inspiration to a lot of people, especially to me when I was down there.
It just he made everyone feel that they were important, and you could see his passion for his profession.
The community is also doing a Go Blue for Florence campaign, and now until October 18th, people are encouraged to put blue lights on their porches to show support. Live in Florence, Nia Watson, WMBF News.
And you just heard Nia say it, mentor. We've heard Terrence Carraway described so many times as a mentor, a coach, and a friend. And Aaron Edwards is live in the Florence Center now with more on how he was a coach and a mentor and how he impacted people, not just because of his uniform and the leadership he had as a police officer, but also how he impacted kids across the PD as a coach and mentor. Aaron.
Yeah, Meredith, I spoke to dozens of people before the service today, and a lot of them said they didn't just know of him, but they knew him personally, and they felt like they had a real personal connection to him. Now, he was a father to one, but mentored dozens of people, some who call themselves the Carraway 8. A person I spoke to before the service says Carraway also mentored her 2 children, and his main message was always that it's never too late to be who you want to be. One of the Carraway 8 got up and spoke at the service today and said Carraway helped through some of the toughest times of his life.
More than just a father or a father figure, more than just a mentor or someone you look up to. I'm very fortunate to have been blessed with his presence throughout my life thus far. I think I speak for the rest of the Carraway 8, the interactions, the times we spent, and everything that you know about him. To meet him, you know him. To know him, you ain't got no choice but to love him.
Others also said that Carraway was the reason that he joined the military. Reporting live in Florence, Aaron Edwards, WMBF News.
And that wraps up our team coverage right now at 6. We'll be back here at 7 with more on everything that happened today and what we've learned about Sergeant Terrence Carraway. I'm Meredith Heline. Back to you in the studio, Eric.
We are continuing to follow coverage of after Florence as the flooding is still a big problem for people, especially in the Loris area where you're looking right now, where you can see a lot of the furniture outside of people's homes, and they're actually dealing with looting in that area as well. Water damage not the only issue in that Polo Farms neighborhood. Looters there, our Samantha Coomer spent the day there where police are now stationed outside that neighborhood. She's going to have much more ahead for you on WMBF News at 7 o'clock. And we are talking yet again about another hurricane, Michael. However, it's very important that we point out, Michael, nothing like Florence with regards to our area. However, we still need to talk about it.
Yeah, absolutely. It's not uncommon at all for us to get impacts from these hurricanes that oftentimes make landfall on the northern Gulf Coast. Yeah. Most recently, if you think back 2 years ago, Hurricane Hermine made landfall, basically rode right up Highway 17. And no, it's not a direct hurricane hit, but wind, rain, tornado threat, rough surf.
Cooler temperatures sometimes?
We can still get those. And yes, we are talking about the upside of Michael. It will finally deliver fall. Let's talk about what we have going on out there right now. It's a breezy evening, and onshore flow kind of roughing the Atlantic up a little bit. That's not directly related to Michael. However, that gusty onshore wind and an increased rip current threat going to be with us as we head through the next couple of days, and certainly by Thursday as we are dealing with Michael moving through the area. Let's talk more closely about Michael right now. Again, it's gaining strength here today, and it looks like it's well on its way to perhaps fairly quickly intensifying overnight tonight and through the day tomorrow as it continues to lift its way to the north. Again, likely coming ashore as a big, powerful Category 3 hurricane here across the northern Florida coastline. And then from there, as all hurricanes do, it weakens once over land, but maintains tropical storm strength as it races through the Carolinas during the day Thursday and out of the Carolinas by Friday. It is going to be moving very quickly as it moves through our area, but still going to bring impacts. Now, as far as the rainfall, that's likely to be heaviest along and primarily west of the track. That's some slightly good news for our area. Looks like the heaviest of the rain may fall across the Midlands of South Carolina into the upstate, into the central and western sections of North Carolina, but still some locally heavy downpours going to be possible for us. Winds likely going to be strongest east of that center. That does mean some tropical storm force wind gusts are going to be possible for most of our area. And it also means we're going to have to watch out for some of those rain bands that may occasionally produce some of those brief but fast moving isolated tornadoes that we oftentimes have to deal with a tropical storm or hurricane nearby. So let's break it down even more and give you those details. Our rainfall forecast right now, no difference if you're at the Grand Strand, if you're in the PD. Everybody, for the most part, looking at generally 2 to 4 inches of rain late Wednesday night into Thursday. But the further west you head, that's where we have the better chance of seeing locally as much as 6 inches of rain. Now, that's not going to lead to Florence-like flooding. However, if that rain comes down heavily over a short amount of time, some minor road flooding may develop. But we are not expecting major impacts on our rivers, and we're not expecting flooding to continue weeks after Michael moves through. That is the big time difference between this one as well as Michael. Now, as far as wind gusts go, I mentioned tropical storm force. Likely on the lower end of tropical storm force, looks like 30 to 50 mile per hour gusts across the area late Wednesday into Thursday. And we're also going to have to deal with that risk for at least some rough surf and some beach erosion with an onshore wind developing Thursday. Could also see some minor coastal flooding, especially that high tide Thursday morning in those typical flood-prone areas. But as Michael moves out, much cooler, fall weather finally moves in. I'll have your 7-day forecast coming up.
We do have new details at 6 o'clock. The Elvis family and the Moorer family back in court today while we await the start of Tammy Moorer's trial for kidnapping in connection with the disappearance of Heather Elvis. Took a long 7 hours, but just before 5 o'clock this evening, a jury was finally selected to decide Tammy Moorer's fate in this upcoming trial. That jury, we found out, is made up of 12 men and women, including 2 alternates. The jury, something the defense, prosecution, and judge were cautious about, questioning and selecting potential jurors, asking questions, including if their friends or family are with law enforcement or if they participated in the search for Heather Elvis. And when the judge asked the panel if they read anything or saw anything about the case, about half the panel stood up. The defense pointed that out, called it a concern. During pretrial motions in early September, the defense made a motion for change of venue with the worry they wouldn't be able to pin down a fair and impartial jury. Well, the defense tried to make that same case again today, but the judge ultimately denied it. Opening statements expected to be delivered tomorrow morning. Marissa Tanzino is covering that case for us. And this is a case we've been following since Heather Elvis first disappeared. This December marks 5 years. Today we're taking a look back at just some of the events involving the Moorers and their ongoing charges. Heather Elvis went missing nearly 5 years ago in December of 2013. The case started at Peachtree Landing, where police found the last signs of Elvis before her disappearance. In 2016, Tammy and Sydney Moorer were charged with kidnapping Elvis. Sydney Moorer first went to trial in June of that year. During that first trial, the prosecution said the heart of this case was about an extramarital affair Sydney Moorer had with Elvis. The trial revealed new details about the alleged sexual relationship, including a possible pregnancy between Elvis and Moorer. This video on your screen allegedly showing Moorer buying a pregnancy test around the time Elvis was last seen. The trial would wrap without justice or resolution for either side. A hung jury was unable to come up with a verdict, and the judge was forced to declare a mistrial. A retrial for the kidnapping and conspiracy to commit kidnapping charges has not yet been set, but we know it'll take place in Georgetown County after a change of venue was ordered. Sydney would go back to trial in August of 2017, this time on an obstruction of justice charge. He was found guilty and sentenced to 10 years. Last month, the prosecution and the defense went to court to discuss motions filed in the upcoming kidnapping trials for the Moorers, among them a joinder motion to try the husband and wife together, saying they face the same charges. Just last week, the South Carolina Supreme Court rejected that motion, saying each individual trial will proceed as planned. And again, Marissa Tanzino is in that courtroom. She'll be there all week, bringing you the very latest as that trial gets underway. Bond denied for the man accused of shooting and killing a Riptide's employee during a fight over the weekend. Plus, Christina Loeb spoke with a friend of the man who died, who says she's still in shock over this act of needless violence. More from our conversation with her coming up in just about 3 minutes. The man charged in the murder of an off-duty Riptide's Oceanfront Grill employee remains behind bars tonight. 24-year-old Jakari Brown appearing in court for the first time since that deadly shooting early Sunday morning. Christina Loeb joins us live outside the courtroom with a closer look at today's hearing. Christina?
Yeah, Eric, during the hearing this afternoon, the judge did not set bond for the man charged with murder in the shooting death of 25-year-old Roger Ramos. Meanwhile, tonight, family and friends still in shock as they continue to mourn the loss of someone near and dear to their hearts. It was a full courtroom as 24-year-old Jakari Brown appeared before a judge for the first time. The judge reading him his rights and explaining the 4 charges against him, including murder.
You're also charged with being under the influence of alcohol while using a firearm. Do you understand that charge? Yes, sir. Thank you, sir.
Renessa Montcalm says it's difficult to describe her emotions after the sudden loss of someone she considers family.
And it was just pretty much sitting there all night, just on the phone with everybody, just waiting because we just really were praying that he wasn't dead.
Montcalm first met Ramos when she moved to Myrtle Beach 7 years ago. The two immediately got along and their friendship grew. She says his humor was contagious and his personality likable.
Very friendly, outgoing, funny, so funny. Always making you smile if you're sad or if you had a bad day. Never, he was never really like angry, very patient. Would give you anything.
Their time together now cut short after Ramos was gunned down at Riptide's early Sunday morning. Now left with just memories, Montcalm says she's blessed to have spent time with him in the week leading up to his untimely death.
He is definitely going to be missed.
All right, the next 2 days featuring a couple of showers around. Those showers gradually increase, especially as we head through the day Wednesday with some breezy winds. Thursday, that's the day to watch. That is when Michael moves in, but thankfully it also moves out by late Thursday and beautiful fall weather by the weekend.
That sounds good. Nightly News is next. We'll see you back here at 7 o'clock.